Hiya. So back in the workshop again. I've had a bit of feedback on YouTube and a request about my railway wagons. So we're going to do a bit of video tonight about railway wagons. If you haven't seen them, if you go onto Facebook, and I'll put a link on, but if you go onto Facebook and look up Miniature Midland Wagon Works, you'll see all the work I've done on my railway wagons. But I'm going to go through tonight how I get started with one, because at the end of the day there isn't a lot of information out there for wagon builders, especially in 7 1/4. 5-inch, there's loads of bits about that you can find. I know that Doug Hewson does a brilliant, he did a brilliant book and has loads of information in there. And then the guys at Steam Workshop, they supply all the parts for his. So there's a few people out there for 5-inch. 7 1/4 is a little bit harder. And especially if you want it that scale and you want it to work, especially like if you go PMP do the springs for them, 17D do the buffer stocks, CNC buffer stocks, they do their wheel sets. So there's lots of companies out there. I've predominantly aimed at the Midland designs, just because I'm a Midland man really, deep down. Even though I live on the east side of the country, I am more of a Midland man. So that's what I've concentrated on. So as far as I know, in the UK, I'm the only one that does a cast V-spoke wheel, which are available through myself or through the Wagon Works, which again is me. So you know, either one, it still works for me. So they're available. I do a lot of laser. I have a lot of laser cuts now, which is only going to get added to as wagons get made or requests get added for different wagons. Corner plates, strapping, axle boxes, Midland Ellis type axle boxes. Really intricate little box. Looks really smart. I have been contacted since I did my first video about having them redone and adding more detail to them, so that's going to go ahead. I do the early type narrow tapered buffer stocks as well. They're my castings because I made a pattern for those many moons ago. I own the pattern box for the V-spoke wheels. As I say, the castings themselves I machined a set up not so long back to finish a wagon off. The meat van that's on my Facebook page, the cast iron that was in them was phenomenal. It machined up really well. So yeah, so we're going to go indoors and I'm going to go through reference books and where we get started, dimensions wise and stuff like that. So stay tuned, and as I say, subscribe. Any questions, just ask and we'll cover it. Obviously this is meant to be a workshop thing, but as someone has asked about my wagons, it only seems right to do that. We'll go back to other bits in the workshop as and when as we like. So yeah, stay tuned, and yeah, we'll go indoors and we'll crack on with the other bits. I don't find it very difficult, but to some people it might be really hard work to work out. So hopefully by the end of this you'll have some idea and you'll be able to crack on with your own stuff. Brill. Okay, so we're indoors. First off, what I do to work out which wagon I'm going to build, I go to my reference books, RJSE, Illustrated Midland Wagons, Volume 1, and I've also got Volume 2. There is Peter Tatlow's LNER wagons, there's BR wagons, there's loads of stuff out there. In these books, this one's stuffed with little snippets of paper and bits and bobs. In the books you'll get overall dimensions in full size in there. I don't know if you can see this. As I say, I can't really see a preview of what you're seeing, so I hope you can see this. So you've got overall dimensions, length, width, wheelbase, things like that, and that's where I start. What I do then, once I've picked out a wagon I want to do, I get a scrap of paper, and then I get my sketch pad, and I write down all the dimensions that I'm going to need. So for instance, wheelbase to start off with. Most I've done so far have been a 9-foot wheelbase wagon, and for 7 1/4, 1.54 inches to the foot. Now I'm going to let you all into a little secret. I do it 1.5 inches because it's a lot simpler. 1/8 to every inch, and that's where I start. I'm working in imperial because obviously on full size everything was in imperial, feet and inches. It can be converted down into metric if you want to. You just work out the calculations from Google, it's not very difficult, and then round up or round down as you need to. So back to back measurement, for instance, 173 I think it is, for 7 1/4 in millimeters. Most of the wagons I've done so far, I've got drawings for or scribbles for that I can convert onto CAD. I'm working on CAD at the moment on something that actually caught my eye tonight doing some research for this video, which I'm not going to let on to too much. The actual wagon I'm going to be doing next is a Midland corpse wagon, and hopefully when I'm editing this together I'll put a little picture on of what that's going to look like. It's quite a nice wagon. It's going to be in traditional Midland livery, so there's going to be maroon on there, there's going to be yellow or gold, and then black, so there's going to be a nice bit of lining on it. Little footsteps on the ends, because for some reason they needed to get on the roofs. I'm not really sure about that, why that was. But again, it's another way. I've picked it out for the simple reason is you don't see many of them, and that's why I picked most of my wagons. So I've done a Midland meat van. I haven't seen a meat van rolling around. You see plenty of sacks of salt wagons, you see plenty of gunpowder vans, you see plenty of open 7 planks, plenty of 5 plank wagons. So I picked a 5 plank manure wagon, no drop doors on the sides or anything. It was very simple design. All you needed was the corner plates. That actual wagon was made up of plywood body, and then I scored the sides to make it look like planks. That's perfectly fine, nothing wrong with that. But what I tend to do now is, if you go to Wicks, you can buy nice strips planed pine, and it works out just about right. 21mm high by 9mm thick. It looks like a real plank, and if you get a series of them together and then put your corner plate on, it really does do the job nice. I'm going to show you in a second some laser profiling I've had done, some corner plates that I've had done for a 7 plank, which is going to be an L&ER wagon. The reason I'm picking L&ER this time round, just something different. It's not particularly any reason. So yeah, my first wagon was the manure wagon, 5 plank. Took a long time to do, but I had ups and downs in model engineering back then. Fell out of love with it a little bit, for one reason or another. Now I've got back into it again. I got it finished off. I then progressed on to a 3 plank engineer's wagon, again a Midland design, and that one I went to town on it a little bit. So I put the tie rods through the main frames, through the main underframe of it, working brake on one side because it was an early design. They only had a brake on one side of the wagon, so all the brakes worked on there. Again, PNP springs, they're resin springs. I can't fault them. I want a scale wagon. No one's going to sit on it, so I haven't got to worry about that. And the deflection in the spring is absolutely bang on. So yeah, I'd thoroughly recommend them, because it just finishes a wagon off. If you want to make it working, if you want to sit on your wagon, I would suggest putting a coil spring through the middle of it somehow. I have given this some thought, because I probably will do a working sit-on wagon, but I'm still going to use the PMP springs. So yeah, that should be quite interesting to do. So when I've worked out on the dimensions of everything, I'm fortunate enough to have a massive stack of oak wood for the underframes. So all my underframes, it's already pre-planed to the right height and right width. I haven't got to go out and source it from anywhere. You want to buy a close grain wood, ash, oak, something like that, because when you start drilling through it and things, you know, you don't want it to splinter and mess you about. And if it can take a knock, a hard wood like that can take a bit of a knock. So yeah, I have a jig down in the workshop that I cut everything to length. So I cut the headstocks, the sole bars, all to length. I cut the support pieces for the in between the frames. It's all pre-marked. It's on a massive piece of angle line. It's got saw cuts in it. So I just clamp the piece of wood to it. It keeps it nice and square, and then I run the saw through it, which with it being angle line, I can't cut it wrong. Cuts the ends nice and square, and that's it. Then it becomes ready to start drilling holes in it for the brake hangers, the buffers, the draw hooks, the hook plates, the W-lines, the V-hangers. All that needs to be drilled. Before you even think about bolting your frames together, you need all that drilled, because you won't get a drill in after the fact. The same as you can't mount your buffers if the headstocks have already been pinned, doweled and glued to the sole bars. So you've got to do a lot of messing about with the frames before you finally start bolting it all together. If you put tie rods through, I bought from EKP Supplies, I bought some 7BA mild steel rod, just the right diameter for 7BA. I cut the tie rods to length, pop them in the lathe, wound a 7BA thread down a little bit for a nut and a washer, and because I'd pre-drilled all the frames, you can push the tie rods through and hold the frames without gluing them, so you get an idea of what it's going to look like. Your bolts would need to come through for your buffer stocks. They have to come from the inside outwards to give you the stud effect, so it looks like there's a stud there. Once the buffer stocks are bolted on, your W-lines are bolted on, your V-hangers are bolted on, and your brake hangers are bolted on, the frames can all go together. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to end this now because it's quite lengthy as a video. I'm going to end this now, and the next video I'm going to show you, it will probably be next week now. I'm going to pre-cut up the framework for my next wagon. So it'll be the corpse wagon. I'm going to cut the frame up into pre-cut lengths that I need. I believe that's a 9-foot wheelbase wagon, which I already have the dimensions for all the other 9-foot wheelbase wagons I've done. Yeah, so I'm going to do that, and then the next video you'll see what I mean when it comes to bolting things together and making things look right. But thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Give my Facebook page a like. That's the Miniature Midland Wagon Works. or Thompson Locomotive Engineering, either of those. But if you're interested in just the wagon works, keep an eye on that page, because that's where I'm going to put all the developments of what the next wagon is. And there's two in the pipeline, well, 3 actually, if I include the brake van that I'm going to do. So there's 3 in the pipeline, and they're exciting. It's exciting stuff. It's keeping me busy. Unfortunately, doing all these projects, I'm not doing my engine, and I really need to finish that. So anyway, stay tuned and we'll see you next time. Okay, so before I go, I missed this from the other bit, laser profiles. Corner plates laid out flat. I can bend these up for you if you're a bit worried about bending them. Put a line down the centre and bend them. You can bend them in your vise. I have a set of a bending tool down in the workshop that can bend them in half. Not bend them in half, but bend a 90 in them. So they're ready to. They're already pre-marked in there. You might have to open them up. I use 8BA in the corner. It's a little bit overscale 8BA, but if you want it to look nice, you know, put a proper bolt in it. Laser crown plate as well, which marries up on the outside of your woodwork, because your WI is going to be on the inside. So you can imagine your wooden frame gets sandwiched between those two, and then you have 2 plates that go at either end. I haven't got a laser profile for them because I just make them out a bit of 3/8 mild steel and drill them through. So that sandwiches up on there. So that's those 2. Little brake drop links for the from the brake hangers to the brake block. The brake blocks, PMP Railways again, they do an RCH scale brake block, and they work. That's the main thing with them. So that's that bit. Hook plates for on your headstocks at either end, and then if you put your 7BA tie bolts through, and you can go all the way through the frames if you want, and from one end to the other. I don't. I go to the 2 stretches in the centre of the frames and tie it in that way, because looking on full-size wagons, that's what most of them did. So as I say, I copy what I see. And then another one that I do, if you want a close coupled wagon, which all my early Midland designs never use these, because my wagons were before the time of this. However, my driving truck that I'm going to connect to my engine, I want my engine and my driving truck to be close coupled. I'm not going to do pin and bar, and if it becomes a legal requirement in the UK, I probably won't run my engine. I will on a private railway that isn't using it as a requirement. I want scale couplings, I'm going to run scale couplings, and that's the end of it. So I'll pin and bar off the back of my driving truck to something if I'm going to be pulling passengers. 9 times out of 10 I'm going to be pulling wagons around, because that's what my engine is. It's a little tank engine, and I love scale wagons, hence why the wagon works. So that's a few of the little laser profiles that I do. Any questions, fire me a message on Facebook, on YouTube, through my email address, mmwagonworks@gmail.com. Anywhere, I'll pick them up. I'll reply to you as quickly as I can. I have, as I say, I've got a lot on, not just for myself but for other people that all need their bits doing, and as well as trying to go out and enjoy the hobby, you know, going to preserve railways and stuff like that. So any questions, fire away and I'll help you out as best I can. And certainly if it comes to, if you want one building, you know, if you don't want to do the building yourself, you want me to do it, fire me a message. I'll tell you how much a wagon's going to be, ready to run, pop it on the track and away you go. Luckily to a certain gent, he has got all 3 of mine that I've built so far. They've all gone to the same place, and he's very pleased with them. So, you know, just because I build them doesn't mean I want to keep them. If you want one, you can have it. It's I'll just build another because I enjoy building them. So yeah, so stay tuned, click subscribe, and we'll see you next time.